My name is Lyn Dutson. I live here in Tempe in Arizona, but I grew up back in New York. My professional career kind of started shortly after I graduated from Arizona State University, and I was working at ASU teaching, and I was their official costumer for a year. I did not start out to be a teacher. I absolutely refused to be a teacher when I was in high school. My mother's a teacher, my grandmother's a teacher, her mother was a teacher, I've been a teacher for now 42 years, and my daughter was a teacher for a while in China. So I wasn't going to be a teacher. I met a lady named Joanne Griggs, who was the new costumer at Arizona State University. And I wanted to volunteer to be part of her program. Now, I was not a drama theater major at that time. I was a history and English major. But I went back the next night. She said, "Who are you?" Like she didn't remember who I was. But I said I came to volunteer, and I did. Worked on that show, and I worked in any number of shows. I worked with her for 2 years, and she was an amazing woman. And that's where my career in costuming started. My career break, getting into costuming, happened in the late 60s. I was working, as I mentioned, with Joanne Griggs, and as one of her assistants, I worked on a play called, musical actually, No Time for Sergeants, which was the opening show at Grady Gamage at ASU. So in that show was a man named Charles Evans, who worked as one of the instructors at Mesa Community College. And at that time, the community college system in Maricopa County was very new. So maybe 5 years they had a theater department. That fall, after working with Charles in No Time for Sergeants, he called me and said, "Well, we need an emergency replacement instructor because someone has not shown up." This was like the second week of classes. So I said, "Sure," and took a deep breath and dived into teaching at Mesa Community College. And I finished working in 2009. Talking about crowning achievements, there are several, and there are different categories, I guess you'd say. One of the ones that's probably the longest lasting, but is also very gratifying, is I had a lot of students over the 40 years. And many, many, many of my students, especially the ones from the 70s, from the 80s, and even from the 90s, have gone into theater themselves. I think that's amazing, and that's talk about a wide influence. And some of them still I have contact with them. Arizona has this program similar to the Academy Awards. The program is designed to improve and educate the community in what theater is and what it can do in various categories. So the Arizona Awards are something that my college agreed to do, and that has people come and watch the shows and judge different categories. I've been nominated a couple of times, and I did receive one award for costuming for The Miser, which is one of my favorite shows. It's a period piece. So that was one of my personal goal achievements. On a personal goal, but not necessarily related directly to theater, I became a martial artist starting in the late 90s, 97 as a matter of fact, and have since, as a personal achievement, received three different belts, black belt in Chinese karate, and a second black in the Goju Shori weapons system, which is a cane and knife system, which is kind of fun. I have received a number of awards. I was Teacher of the Year at Mesa Community College. I was nominated and received the honor of being inducted into the Mesa Community College Hall of Fame, if you will, when they started that program. But those are some of the personal achievements related to my profession. I've been asked to summarize my life in one word, and why would I choose it? And I thought about that for a while because that's a tough one. But I finally decided it would be fun. I enjoyed what I did. I'm one of the lucky people. I enjoyed teaching, I enjoyed bookkeeping, I enjoyed building stuff, both costumes and sets. I enjoyed watching the production of that on stage. It was fun. And I would highly recommend that you find fun somewhere in your life, preferably as an avocation. And that's what I did. I can't think of anything more fun that I could have done with a life. I used my English background and my English history background. I used history, I used psychology. All of that came together in theater, and it just made life fun. Personal inspirations, or people who have inspired me, because I think it would always be people. One of the early ones would be a guidance counselor named Mr. Brown. He was a high school guidance counselor, and he's the one that talked my mother and dad into letting me run away to Arizona to go to college. Mr. Brown was one of the warmest, nicest people I know. But nobody messed with him. Not in the troublesome students in the school didn't give him any trouble. He was tough, but he was nice. And I would like to be tougher probably than I really am, although I've had people tell me that I scare them, which I never understood. But I kind of like that mixture of being tough and being kind and being able to look at each person as an individual. My mother is 5'2". She was a high school, elementary school teacher. She taught 3rd grade and 5th grade. She was also in a small school at 8th grade. My 8th grade class had 8 in it. Some of the classes that she taught were less than that, in a small rural school. Many confrontations that I remember watching her or listening to the story of were her confrontations with farmers, all of whom were at least a foot taller than her. And her job was not to alienate them, but to back them down and without them knowing that's what was happening, and to get them cooled off enough to listen to what was going on and to eventually agree to whatever the solution was going to be. But this was a woman that never backed down. She actually did a little bit of costuming, and she taught me how to sew on an old treadle sewing machine. And I was 7, and I loved doing it. So that also got me into costuming eventually when the kind of everything came together in the costuming. My daughter has been kind of Kate is an amazing person herself. Creative, very much so. She loves to dance. I do too, but she is a dancer in the sense that this is not her career, but this is the thing she chose to love and have fun with outside of her career. She's a computer, not a programmer, she's a project manager. It's probably not the right title, but it's close. But she and Chris, her significant other, do interpretive blues dancing, which is just flat fun. And that's what people need to find outside of their career, maybe, is that thing that they have fun at. Family legacy or personal legacy would be to my daughter, who is family. What I have done in costuming, and I have known several people who are in professional costuming that had me in classes at one point, or working in the costume room at one point in time. To me, what I gave to them in the costuming room is in part of what they're doing now. So that to me is another kind of legacy. A lesson to pass on to future generations. I guess my advice would be to find something you like. You don't have to love it. That's maybe going a step too far. I was lucky, I loved what I was doing. But find something you like that you can enjoy doing as a career. And then find something you maybe love or just have lots of fun with. That's, I think, important, is you do something that you like well enough to do it 5 days a week or whatever that job is. But you find something outside of that job that is fun for you, that gives you time to be your own wild self. I would like to be remembered as a fierce person. I would also like to be remembered as kind, willing to help other people, trying to be patient and be more patient than I probably really am. I've learned to be patient. As a kid, I had a very short temper, and I have learned, and karate has helped that too, and so did 40 years of theater, to be patient, to let people be their own people, to let them do their own thing in their own time. To help them find that thing if possible. That's how I'd like to be remembered.